I had the customer before I even had a camera. And I said, so when's your first game? He said, well, it's this Friday. I didn't even have a camera.
Tulsa Talks is the podcast that is inspiring people to have everyday meaningful conversations to gain perspective and help the world.
Welcome to Tulsa Talks, where we inspire people to have meaningful everyday conversations. Hopefully we can help people see different people's perspectives and open ourselves up to a more meaningful life as a community.
Yeah.
So Jim Passmore is here with us today, and his subject is the passion
Behind the business. Yeah.
So how long have you been doing this, Jim?
Since 1985, a long time, a lot longer than a lot of these young guys out there before they was even born.
So how did you fall into this, or what caused you to start in 1985? I suppose there's something leading up to 1985 in the business launch.
Well, I mean, this was before Blockbuster existed. So that's how dated I go. Why?
But what led up to you launching in 1985? Why did you do this? And what do? You do videography, right?
Yeah, that photography, content creation, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
I
all
know
kinds.
I know Jim Passmore because he's been doing some drone footage for us and other people in the construction industry. And that's how I know him. That's why I said that. Videography, content creation, photography, content creation. So
Took the words right out of my mouth, man.
I just regurgitated. So why? What happened in your life to get this ball moving?
I knew I wanted to work for myself some way, somehow. I graduated, had a degree in marketing, minor in computer science, but I'm doing stuff that didn't even exist back then. So, but I knew I wanted to do something for my own. And after I graduated, I hit and miss on jobs I was working for. They just didn't work out. And you could call it divine intervention of, you're going to fail at this, but you're going to learn something. And then you're going to move on to something else.
That's a good way to look at it, is by you might fail, but you might learn. So is it really failure, or is it just a teaching moment?
Well, yeah, life? You could equalize.
Maybe both.
Yeah.
But how do we attach ourselves, and how do we discover what it is that we're supposed to do and not quit? How did you do that?
Well, the struggle of finding something. My biggest thing is I wanted to do something on my own, something creative. And I mean, I had jobs I had gone through, talking about failing and learning. I'd gone through copier sales back when you had copier sales thing, and even had a route for Budweiser years ago. That didn't work out. Had a bunch of mishaps on that. And you could say that's God telling you to
do something different.
On. Yeah. It's, same way. If you dated somebody and it doesn't work out, it's like God, But
you might find what you don't want,
right,
as well as experience a couple of things that you do want, and narrowing your path into what you should do.
Right. God funneling you to a thing, but before you go down the hole, you got to go around and around and around.
So, couple of failures, couple of life lessons, and you ended up with what to start?
Well, I started some video was just coming out, and cameras were super expensive, but it dawned on me I could do that. I could do the video thing, and so I had made a sales call to Broken Arrow High School, and they said, talk to the quarterback club. They're the ones with the money. Back then, they would shoot game films on 16 millimeter film. So none of the parents had a copy of their games at all. Now it's you just punch up and it's a channel, so, but back then that's how it started. And I went to the quarterback club and said, hey, I'd like to video your game films and then make copies. And they said, yeah, that's great. We need someone like that. They didn't, they want to see their kids play. And that's how I got started. And so when I I had the customer before I even had a camera. And I said, so when's your first game? He said, well, it's this Friday. I didn't even have a camera. And so we wound up borrowing some money and bought a camera, which was humongous, bigger than these things.
Big battery pack.
Big battery, VCR around your neck, down here with a wire going to it. And that's how we started. First football game I ever shot was all green because I didn't know about color balance and all that crap. But anyway, that's how it started, and it just kept on going. Then I did, of course, weddings for. I've done over 1,000 weddings in my lifetime because we were doing 2 and 3 weddings a weekend, and when you do it for that long, it's and nobody was really doing that, but there was a big need for it, and it just kept progressing from there. And now I work with my son. That's really where the passion on the back nine of my life is really coming out. Is getting to work with my son, and we're just the best buds. And he's taught me a lot of stuff, and hopefully I think I've taught him some stuff, and we're growing. And
What kind of stuff has he taught you?
this higher tech equipment, better cameras, stuff. He notices that, and he notices software. He said, Dad, you need to buy this lens. It does this for us. I said, okay, buy the software, and then I'll bring up something. I said, what do you think? I think we need to buy this. And he'll look it over and say, yeah, I think so too. And so we still butt heads every now and then on editing decisions. And basically I still edit. I cut the base, and then he throws on the salt and pepper stuff on it to make it look really, really cool, colorizes it, speed ramp, stuff like that. And so I learned a lot from that because he's learning all kinds of stuff like that. He's very, very, a lot smarter than I ever was. And
Yeah, the younger generation is typically more technology driven and understands technology better than old people like us.
well, yeah. And
They were raised with it.
they were raised with it. I'm glad he didn't get involved with phones and all that stuff till he had a good childhood. At least I think so. And so I think that made him really balanced and solid in how he is today, because he's not constantly hypnotized by these stupid phones, but everyone's got to have them to how things work today.
Hold on just a second. What were you saying? Let me check my phone.
Yeah, see, it's got you trained. Yeah, beep beep. Yes, what do you need? Yeah, here's this beep, and sounds like I'm talking to R2D2, and trying to learn something. And anyway, that's just how phones are. I remember first text I ever had. I didn't even know what it was. I go, what's this on my phone? First time I saw the internet, I thought, so what? Big deal. Why don't you just buy a magazine? That's what I thought. Said there's a picture and text. It did the very first time, it just didn't register what it could do.
Yeah. Fellow came in that owns a couple of Chick-fil-A's, Arthur Greeno, having a conversation with us. He's a dynamic individual, and he owned Chick-fil-A restaurant pre-computer, basically.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't have computers there at Chick-fil-A, and he said that the corporate offices slowed down the adaptation of computers because they weren't sure they were going to last.
Yeah.
How much different is it today than that?
Oh, it's so much different. I mean, I'm doing stuff that like I said, didn't exist. And video's gotten, there was a time video wasn't really all super, super important as what it is now. I mean, I was help kids get scholarships, and I had a parent that I went out and shot his kid doing his thing, made a promo video, and then he would say, hey, I need 100 copies. And then he physically mailed them out. And he did it enough times, his kid wound up getting a scholarship. So that's how they did it before the internet.
Yeah, I remember friends of mine that did that.
Sure. And so it's just, now it's just a touch of a button, and
Yeah, send somebody a link.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, the good and the bad and ugly of it is in front of everyone to see, and it depends on the person using it or what they want to do with it. and it's a good communication tool.
Yeah.
You know, you want to get religious about it. I mean, Jesus didn't go build a church first before he started talking. I mean, he got in a boat and waded out there and used a little mountain, and not a mountain, but some type of raised something different. He didn't have to go build a building to show love and all that stuff. And people learn from it. And that was all new, you know, and now this is all new. So it's always changing, I guess. I'm no telling what we're going to be doing in another 20 years if I'm still around.
Yeah, be interesting to see, because it sure seems like it's going faster and faster as far as adaptation and innovation, or innovation and adaptation of it. And so, getting back to Captain Video Productions, that is the name of your company, right?
Right.
And what you guys do, we've covered that fairly well, and we've touched on the passion behind it, and we touched on why you landed where you are by failure and self-realization. And you've done this since 1985, which is 40 years. Is that right? Coming up on 40-year anniversary?
Yeah.
Just, I guess that would be somewhere around September-ish, because your first video was football game for Broken Arrow High School.
Yeah. Yep.
So almost 40 years, man.
40 years.
You're
man.
old.
I'm an old geezer. It's thanks. I mean, I've been through VHS and I've been through 8mm, and then I went through mini DV. So all these are different kinds of cameras.
Yeah.
And now they're doing cards and stuff like that.
So what hooked this as not only what you could do, but what you should do, and caused you to see real purpose in this? It started with the football game recording, and then it grew from there, and you started doing some weddings.
Yeah.
And why did it stick? Why are you still doing it 40 years later? Just like maybe year 5, where were you at that process of, you know, to me, different things in my business career and my life caused me to continue doing what I do. And I can look back on some key things where things were changing and being altered, and the challenges and the accomplishments of business. So why do you still do this?
Well, it is changing all the time. I mean, every time they change the format from tape to mini DV, I had to buy a new camera because they didn't work anymore. I still got some old stuff, and I like it being on the creative side of it. I think me being, how do you pronounce the word, dyslexia, is that right? Where you flip-flop stuff around on print or whatever. I think me having this, I still do, I think it makes me a better editor. Since it's not print, I can say, hey, we need to flip these 2 scenes. They'll talk better. See, my son's really good at things, and he'll cut stuff, and I'll say, hey, flip this scene or put it there. And he didn't see it. And then once he makes the flip,
it flows better.
It was told the story better, whatever we're doing. And I'll say, oh, once you take this shot and reverse it, no one's going to know it's reversed. And it'll tell the story better. Instead of taking the glue off, it puts it back on if I'm doing something that's an install video for somebody. So, or we didn't have a good shot of him putting it on, so we reversed it, made it look like he was putting it on. Actually, he's taking it off. No one ever knows it. But I notice that just because I can't read very good.
So you're a dyslexic artist at heart.
Hey, that's a good one. I ought to get a T-shirt that says that, and then misspell it.
A dyslexic artist at heart that loves being around people, loves having this production coming through your life. You love spending time around your child.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I wanted to have a job that I could work from home before working from home was even popular. But I'd done the corporate gig, and in order to be a move up in the corporate world, you had to be a corporate gypsy. You had to move around to this town to this town, and then even at that, there's no guarantee that big company is even going to exist. I mean, you don't even hear of Sprint. You don't hear of
Who?
MCI. You don't hear these guys, and they're
Right.
great big companies. Thinking you
They
got
were.
thinking you got a big. Well, Captain Video, little old Captain Video's outlasted all them. And I
Keep it simple.
yeah, the corporate life. Nah,
It fits some people, but it didn't fit you.
it does. Correct.
We're fortunate to have those people work in the corporate world
Right.
because they enable us to live the life that we can because
Right.
we're all moving points of this ecosystem we call life.
Right. It's just you're right. I can only go from my life experience. It's not like everybody.
Not for you.
No, it just wasn't for me. Yeah.
My nephew worked with the college team and he was thinking that he wanted to be a college football coach, some level of
Yeah.
that. And they had a bad year because a lot of people that were their star players got hurt first game of the year. It was small school, playing against a big school, and they got wore out in the second half, and some injuries happened. Their team didn't do as good as they thought they should.
Right.
And the whole staff was fired and had to move. The whole coaching staff of the small university was fired, and they had to go somewhere else in the country to find a job to continue doing their
Right.
career. At that point, my nephew decided that he was not going to be a college football coach. That was a life-altering
Right.
path for him because he had thought about it for a decade that this is what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a college football coach, but because of that experience, just like you were talking about experiences you had earlier in your life, then he was like, yeah, no, that's not okay. Not what I
Yeah.
want to do.
Well,
I'll stay
that's-
here and I'll work for my family business and we'll plug in and I'll get married and have kids and just
Right.
have that settled life
He
instead
wanted
of
to
going
dig
big
in.
time. Yeah.
Right. And that's God talking to him, if you want to look at it that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, how do we help other people find their purpose and passion is a great question for me. And like we just said, you found yours by trial and error.
Right.
My nephew found his by trial and error.
Yeah.
And I found mine through trial and error.
Yeah. That's your God experience, man.
And I want to encourage people to know just because you haven't found what you're supposed to be doing exactly at this time, maybe this life that you've lived is what you were supposed to be doing to get through that funnel of finding what you're going to do for the next period of your life. A lot of people start introspecting and start feeling bad about themselves instead of living a life of freedom like you might have done when you failed a few times at those jobs.
Right.
How'd that feel, Jim?
Yeah,
When you
at the
failed, how
time,
did it feel?
yeah, at the time when you either get fired from a job or it's just not working out, yeah, it leaves a nasty taste in your mouth. But that's uh, when you're at my age and your age, you can look back and it all makes sense,
Right. Yep.
right?
And I call that process the process of being equipped to love. Might it be with your career? Might it be what you do in social activities? Might it be whatever it is? I have coined the phrase equipped to love yourself and equipped to love others through the hardships that we've experienced, knowing that we can one day look back and realize what a cool adventure I've lived.
Right.
And how do we help other people live theirs to the fullest as well?
It's a wonderful life, man. Got to look back. I mean, maybe that's what this whole life is. After we're dead and gone, we see some big screen and says, zip through it like a video or whatever. I don't know, but it'll all make sense. That's my faith. It's all going to make sense after we go through it. Maybe that's the whole point.
I think with resting where you are moving forward as you walk, that we can see the big picture while we're still here. If that's what we're supposed to do. And that's what we're here to do, is try to encourage people to see life from a bigger perspective.
Right.
and we appreciate you sharing your story today.
Mhm.
We are here to help you discover or develop your passions, how you can use them, and why you exist. How can we help you help others better?